Hello and welcome to the Bad for Real Show. We'd like to thank you for watching part one and part two of last week's episode, The Chains Are Broken. This week is another great and phenomenal show with Mr. Robert Epps III and Miss Holly Cook.
Welcome to the
Bad for Real. Bad for Real.
Your season to buy or sell.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bad for Real show. Today, we're going to change it up a little bit. I'm super excited. We have two phenomenal guests with us today. We have Miss Holly Cook and Mr. Robert Epps III. Today, they are with the company EXP Realty. We're going to talk about real estate and how much more it would be so much simpler, I should say, for us to own a home instead of renting. So when I'm getting the calculations of, how much we spend a month in renting, and we could have bought the house. If you're renting for 4 years, we can almost pretty much be done with the house. Robert, can you tell me a little bit about that?
So one thing that everybody should really think about is your renting, as you just said. If you guys were to all just sit down and calculate how much you spend on rent and multiply that by 12, you would be surprised at how much money you're actually investing into your landlord. Now, let's turn around and think about the fact if we were to take that same money and invest it in ourselves, where would we be? A lot of times people are afraid to move forward because of their finances, but if you sit down and you budget properly and begin to invest in yourself versus your landlord, I think that home ownership is a very easy dream and goal to accomplish.
Wow, that is so awesome. And a lot of people, including myself, never actually sat down and thought about that. We just focus on pay the bills, and when things don't get done properly, when you're asking, it's like, okay, so what am I paying for? Holly, tell me a little bit about the part of what you do and how you can also help us, the ones that are looking for a home.
Yes, absolutely. So first thing is first is getting pre-approved. And what that looks like is really seeing where you are. Is your credit score where it needs to be to actually qualify for a loan if you need one? And then also, if you do not have a score that would qualify, we actually do have connections where it would help you build up your score to have a goal of purchasing a home, whether it takes like 3 months, a month, 6 months, a year, wherever you are, we actually have the ways to be able to get you to your ultimate goal, which is home ownership.
Wow, that's awesome.
And Holly just said something that I think is key in the process. A lot of people are afraid to move because of just that they're afraid and they have that fear. But in order to find out where we're going, we have to find out where we are. Whether you're ready today or next year, the first step is going to be to reach out to a lender. It is a soft hit to figure out where your credit score is. A lot of people would be amazingly surprised that don't think they can, and then they get their credit pulled and they realize that the only thing stopping them is a medical bill that may be $168.
Wow.
So
right.
You're going to continue to
Wow.
spend $800+ on rent a month because you're afraid. But then you speak to a lender and you realize that literally the only thing that is taking you higher on the ratio scale of your debt to income is a small medical bill. It may be something small like 2 credit cards, but you guys, we have to take that leap of faith and really figure out where we are credit-wise before we can move forward.
Wow.
And that is something that is hardly spoken of a lot these days. Partly because, especially for our generation, I feel as if our parents weren't really taught. So how could they teach us? And now that we're beginning to wake up, and I spent 3 years in the financial industry as a service manager for one of the major banks in the country.
Right.
And that allowed me to see credit scores that were coming in, people who really did not know how to budget, help them budget. But it also gave me the wake-up call because I saw people who were coming in with 700 credit scores. And the banks will deny them for something simple.
Oh, wow.
But then
That's
we have
interesting.
outside lenders like Lending Path, Movement Mortgage, and other companies that are throughout the Midlands area, and we'll send that same customer with the same score, same profile over to a private lender, and they're approved. So you really have to sit down and figure out where you are, where your options. I think the first step, again, is speaking with a lender. But before you even do that, you need to get with a realtor like Holly or myself that's very knowledgeable about not just how to sell you a home, but the process it's going to take to get there.
Wow, that is so
Absolutely.
deep. That is so deep. And I like what you said, Robert, on the part of, I hear so many say, oh, the bank or the credit union turned me down. And then they feel like they're stuck. But really, they're not stuck. It's a matter of finding the right connection that can work with you, that can help. And I like the part also when you said, if it take a year or 2 years. Well, if you think about it, if you already signed the lease, you're already gonna be there for that year. That gives you the time to work it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, this is awesome today.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're talking about this because, after a while, including myself, you do get tired of renting. And then you think about it, it's like, okay, I've rented all these years, but what do I have for myself?
And I mean, just think about it on a different, personal level. When you go home, that is supposed to be your area of peace and your area of zen. But if zen for you is painting my wall a certain blue because that's what makes it tranquil when I go in the house. If you paint an apartment, you have to paint that back.
Yeah.
When you purchase your home, if you want to tear down a wall, tear it down.
Right.
If you want to change the color of anything, change it. If you want to change the fixtures, you can. There's just so much more freedom when you decide to own and not to continue to rent.
Wow. That's so true. Oh my goodness, that is so true. I'm just so blessed now that I don't have no one on top of me on the next door, with all the thumping and the bunking and you can't rest. And it's true, when you get into a home, it's totally, totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. Holly, tell me a little more about what you do in the industry.
In the industry, it's really just walking the client from point A to Z. Being there when they have the questions. I treat every client as if they are my only client because I really want them to know every step of this process because it's a lot of people that they really are dealing with through the entire process.
Mm-hmm.
You have me, you have your mortgage lender, you have inspectors, you have attorneys. There's a lot that takes place. And a lot of people, they don't know the process and they don't know what's next. They don't know that if this is time sensitive, I could lose money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the connects really come from, to know that you can trust
Right.
who is actually holding your hand and
Right.
taking you
Right.
from A to Z.
Right.
Because if they drop the ball, then that could be you
Mhm.
losing an opportunity and possibly a home.
That's true.
So those things is definitely from point A to point Z, we're there guiding the entire way. So pre-approval, knowing where they are, like Robert said, you have to know where you are
Mm-hmm.
to know where you need to get to.
Right.
So, and then once that happens, you do get pre-approved, then the fun begins.
Mm-hmm.
So we go and we shop hunt and we hunt for
Wow.
houses and we find which one works for the client the best. And if that looks like looking into one house and saying this is it, or taking time to see 30. I mean, who knows what that process is gonna look like for the client, but we're there.
Right.
And then negotiations and so forth.
That's so awesome.
Mhm.
And I just got excited. It sounds like fun.
It
you know?
It is.
It
It sounds
is
like
working for
fun.
something that is actually going to be for you,
Mhm.
and then depending on what your future looks like, that could be for your kids.
Absolutely.
So just depending on what you choose can actually be left generations. And like you said, rent you can. that's left to your landlord's generations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
making someone else rich,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
Generational
much.
wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about generational wealth.
Yes.
Let's talk about
Let's
it
talk
because that's our
about it.
industry.
Yes.
But I mean, Holly hit it right there, and I had to just tap in because, like you said, when you continue to rent, you are investing into that landlord. So when they pass, that's just going to pass down to their kids and their generations. But let's say, for example, you get into a house, and most people who purchase for the first time, that's not their forever home. Most of the time, you see first-time home buyers in their home for 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are savvy realize that the real estate industry right now is probably one of the best investments you can make across the country. And I'm talking about for long-time wealth.
Right.
Because if you take your first home and then you turn your first home into an income property, hello, listen,
All right, come
you
on
take
now.
that and you turn that into an income property. Now you're in your second home, which 9 times out of 10 is most likely going to be that forever home. Your first home is now paying the mortgage on your second home. But also, if anything were to happen, or where your kids come of age and you want to teach them responsibility, now you allow them to take over that rental property and they're managing. So now they have responsibility.
Good stuff. Wow. Oh man, that is.
There's so many ways to solve
Yes,
Yeah.
let's talk
Yeah.
about that because I'm sure our listeners are learning and gaining on this as well. Because a lot of this stuff is never taught.
Mm-hmm.
You only get the surface. This bet for real is let's get to the nitty
Keep
gritty.
it real.
Well, listen, another way that I work with a lot of investors, and they like multi-units, duplexes.
Wow.
And that is another extreme way of having just that wealth to pass down generation to generation. Because if you are in the right location, you can actually purchase this multi-unit, live in one of the rooms, and rent out the entire unit.
Wow.
And then now you're not just gaining your mortgage, but you're also gaining passive income.
Wow. Wow. But listen, we'll be right back with more of the good stuff.
If you haven't done so yet, please go to our YouTube page, like and subscribe and share.
Welcome back to the Bet for Real show. So Robert and Holly, we were talking about a few things about the business and being able to purchase. What made the two of you decided to go into realty? Miss Holly, we didn't hear much from you. Let's hear from you.
Definitely. So I have always been in customer service all of my entire life. And, just helping people, connecting with people through my journey actually is just really something that I have a passion for. So what I was actually doing before real estate was cosmetics. I was in the makeup industry. I was an artist. And I loved what I did. It taught me a lot, and then it expired for me.
Wow.
And I wanted to actually move to a place where I actually could be someone that I could help in someone else's journey, walk them with a necessity.
Wow.
Because makeup is something that, a lot of times women feel like they need, but we really don't need. And so just to give that journey, holding each other's hand, walking through and guiding them to be able to create memories in a home with their family gives me so much more joy.
Oh, wow. That is so awesome. That is so awesome. And it's so sweet the way you said, I want to give more.
Absolutely.
That is so important to a lot of people. A lot of people are searching for more. A lot of people are looking for someone that's really going to listen and help. I can only imagine, like, when you do makeup, you only can talk about so much. But when you're
I don't know.
walking, okay. so you can do a little more. Okay, sometimes, right? But to really feel like you have done something and completed something, to walk them step, like it's like a baby step, until they're now walking into their home.
I mean, and just, the instant gratification of when you are sitting in a makeup chair and you see that results, like, after the artist is done, it gives you that moment. And there's reasons, that people sat down in my chair that were therapeutic.
Awesome.
But however, when you are actually going into home buying process, that is the biggest purchase of someone's life. And it could be the scariest.
Right.
And just to know that you've helped someone through that, and not only then, but you establish those connections where you see the house that they're creating memories in with their family, that you actually, help them get. And that just gives me so much of the passion that goes behind what I do.
And that was the part I wanted you to pull out and say, I was trying to pull and tug for you to say that because it is a passion. I'm the type of person as well. I love helping people. I will go all out my way. So I can only imagine at the end, at the signing, what your insides must feel like to see the people smile.
It's a beautiful thing.
I know it is.
I post about it every time.
Oh, wow. Robert, what made you get into it?
So it's funny because Holly and I connected actually in the cosmetics industry, and our stories are very similar. I spent many years in retail management and in the beauty industry, but more years in apparel where, it was great to help somebody who was coming in find that outfit for whatever the occasion may be, whether it was back to school or family reunions, weddings, just going out. But when I came home, I felt like, okay, what's next? So after, a while, I decided that I was going to go into the financial industry, partly for the same reasons. I wanted to be able to help people accomplish things. That 16-year-old who started his first bank account and then 2 years later, they're 18 and getting ready to graduate, and now I'm able to help them begin to finance their first car. And I've had these experiences, where I've literally been able to sit down with a client who started on a not so great path, whether it was financial or credit-wise, and then I was able to see them sit down at the closing table and finish on their home. But even then, like Holly said, after a while, that feeling began to expire because I began to see where there were certain prejudices against certain people, and certain people who should have been qualified weren't. So my real estate goes a little bit deeper than that as well because my dad, growing up, had his own construction business. So, a lot of the fondest memories that I have of him were us either putting something together, working on a house, or doing something of that nature. And before he passed, one of the biggest things that we were talking about was beginning to flip homes in the South. So, losing him some years back, the feeling of wanting that connection started to kick in. And when I closed on my house, my realtor was just so phenomenal at what she did that she not only became our agent, but she became family. And it was in that moment that I knew that I wanted to be able to help other families go down the same path that she helped us down. Because, Holly and I can sit here and tell you the upsides, but there are downsides to it as well. This can be a headache, this can be stressful. So knowing that you have that agent that is trustworthy, that's compassionate, that shows empathy, and that really genuinely cares for you and not just the paycheck. Because there are agents out here who are like that.
Come on, bad for real. Keep it
to be on a team like the Lance Woodley team right here in Columbia, where, from our broker on down, it is just a complete knit family unit. No matter what anybody is going through, we're there for each other. We have agents on the team who have been in the game for, about a year and a half, 2 years, like Holly and myself, all the way up to agents who have been in the game for over 20 years. So joining the industry and being surrounded by such a phenomenal team just gave me that confirmation that I made the right choice. We are closing deals left and right here in Columbia. We are getting families to that finish line that did not think they can. And, we're doing it all night, every night. There are nights where me and Holly text each other at 12, 1 o'clock and we're just finishing contracts. But we have that much passion behind what we do. So no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter where you are in this process, you can reach out to either one of us and we will definitely make sure you finish.
Amen.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Listen, we always hear about there's all kinds of grants or first time buyer, and then you hear people, oh, there's not a such thing, you can't do it, or what
We hear
about the
all
ones
kinds of
that
stuff.
we hear all kinds of things,
We
right?
do.
So then I've heard, some that had shaky credit, but they were able to get approved, and and then you have the rent with option to buy. So let's talk about those things. Can you tell me? Go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing I want to start with, and I think this is something that both of us are probably familiar with, is the rent with the option to buy.
Okay.
Those can be very sticky contracts. And again, if you don't have the right agent who is on your side to really read that fine print, a lot of times you find yourself getting into a situation where you're double paying for your home. A huge portion of your rent is supposed to be being saved to go towards a down payment, things of that nature, and it does not always happen. So just if you are going to get into a rent to own situation, just be very, very cautious and careful. My suggestion is, versus doing rent to own, really rent to own. Rent while you're renting, begin to work on your credit, begin to, break that cycle of getting paid to pay rent and really start to figure out how much you can put to the side, and just start setting yourself up for a better tomorrow, which is homeownership. As far as the different grants and things, I tell everybody that Google is your best friend. No matter where you are, every county is going to offer some sort of grant, and there are going to be requirements that come along with that. 9 times out of 10, a majority of them are going to say that you can't be under contract with a home already, so you have to wait. This has to be something that you do earlier on in your process. There are going to be classes, 9 times out of 10, that you have to take. So, a lot of times people just don't have that drive because we come from a generation where things are beginning to be handed to us. So we feel like we're privileged and we just deserve. But if you want something, you have to work for it. So a lot of these classes, you may have to get up on a Saturday on your off day and spend maybe 4 or 5 hours listening to the journey of home ownership, what it's going to look like. But when you're done with that, there'll be grant money that you can get to go towards your down payment. So I say just look it up. Another great option for people who are in credit situations that may not be the best, there's an amazing program called NACA, N-A-C-A. I love the program. It takes a little bit longer and you do have to have patience, but NACA is going to help you get from point A to point Z, and they're going to help you rebuild in the process. And they're not going to allow you to begin the home buying process until they know that you're ready. So I think there are amazing programs out here. We just really have to sit down and take the time to look them up, or again, reach out to an agent who can kind of help guide you down the alleyway that you need to go down and figure out what's out there for you.
Wow, that is phenomenal. I never heard of it.
Yeah. One more thing. You mentioned people with shaky credit who are still getting approved. It is out there, but guys, it's going to be just like anything else. Again, my suggestion is to take your time and really speak to a lender to figure out where your score should be so that you can get the best APR rate that you
gotta
can.
know where you are.
If your credit score is lower and you get approved, amen, but that's 9 times out of 10 going to come with an extremely high interest rate, and you want to be cautious of that. Like, again, make sure that you're reading your fine print. Don't just look at what you got approved for and what your mortgage is, but look at what that interest rate is going to look like, because you're probably going to be paying that for 30 years.
Wow. Okay, so that's deep. That just kind of cut me off right there. I'm like, whoa. What about, for those that you always hear, you have no credit? That's like the most disappointing thing I think that anyone can go through. I don't have any credit, but I should be able to get a house, and then they tell you have no credit. Sometimes that's just as bad as having bad credit.
Yeah,
So
you definitely need to get started with your credit. And then of course, every bank is going to want to see some kind of history.
right.
And you have to be able to prove to the bank that you're responsible enough to pay back what you are actually, gaining from the lender. So, that's a lot of money. The house is a lot of money.
Yes.
And they want to know that they're going to be able to get that money back. So you have to start somewhere. And if that looks like, a secure credit card,
There it is.
just to be able
There it
to
is.
get started and take that journey for a couple of years, like Robert said, it really takes the effort.
Right.
You have to want it.
Right.
And whatever you want, it does take a little bit of energy and effort and just being consistent and following through the journey of where you really want to be.
Absolutely. This is so awesome. We'll be right back.
Are you constantly on the go with your kitchen, bathroom, and baseboards getting dirtier every day? Are you physically unable to clean your home the way you'd like to? S&D Cleaning Services offers residential home cleaning for your kitchen, living room, bathrooms, and special help like laundry service, refrigerator cleaning, and more. Get that sparkling fresh home that you'll be proud of. Call S&D Cleaning Service now and get a free estimate. That's S&D Cleaning Service, 414-0842. That's 414-0842.
And welcome back to the Beth for Real show. Holly and Robert, I'm telling you, when we're on commercial break, our conversation is just phenomenal. Let's start off with people that are buying land. I know that we're hearing now, like we never used to hear before, we're hearing now that you gotta be careful because flood zone. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So I think that was something that was kind of always around, but after that great flood we had here, especially in Columbia a few years ago, it just kind of opened up the eyes of the surveyors to go out and figure out what areas are really in flood zones, because that's something that as a purchaser you want to be aware of in the beginning. So when you're purchasing land, there's a lot of things that you need to pay attention to. Is it in a flood zone? What are the restrictions for the land? What can or can I not build or put on this land? Where exactly is my land? A lot of times there is like something off on the map that you look at, which is why it's important to get with a surveyor to figure out exactly where your property line stops so that you don't build over your line. So land is an amazing choice in my opinion, especially for somebody who feels as if they want to purchase and know where they want to, but they may not be ready to buy the home at that moment. I say go ahead and find the land and secure your land. And then later on down the line, you can work on clearing that land if it needs to be cleared. And then when you're ready to actually build your home, you've completely secured the area for it. At that point, you can find a builder and then start working on a custom build.
Now, there's been horror stories where people have purchased land and can't build on the land. Can y'all tell us a little bit about that?
Well, me personally, I've never had that issue, but I know my mentor has. And, it's definitely not a fun situation. But because he is good at what he did, he caught it in time and they can move on and find another piece of land. Because it was a swamp. Yeah.
But see, and again, that's what we were saying earlier. It kind of just goes back to making sure you have the right agent who is going to, do their due diligence and make sure that things like that happen. Because sometimes small things like that can slip through the cracks, and it may not be on the advertisement that the consumer is necessarily looking at. But we have back channels to be able to pull up, all the documents, whether it's land or a new build or a resale, and figure out exactly what's going on with that and catch it in the beginning. So, there are people who will buy land that's in the flood zone. They're comfortable with that. It just means that you have to get an engineer out to make sure that your home is built properly. So there's nothing wrong necessarily with being in a flood zone if you're comfortable with that. But as a consumer, I think that that's something that, we want to be aware of before walking into that situation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And flood insurance is not cheap. So that could be as much as your mortgage. You need to know that, right?
Wow. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So tell us some more about on your end with the realty. How you can have clients. Is it hard if a client back out or if you're stuck? You work hard at it and it happens. So can you tell me a little bit what the process on your end and how a client can lose out by doing that?
Lose out by doing?
Well, putting a deposit down. Do they always get the deposit back?
It just
under the contract? Right. So let's explain that to those who are going to look for the first time. What happens in that process?
Right. Well, it all boils down to having a really good agent. And the reason why is because things are very time sensitive in this journey. So you have so many days to start your loan process, you have so many days to do your due diligence with inspections, and if say the house is eaten up by termites, and now it's not going to stand in a few days, and you found this out, do you really want to invest in this home?
Right.
So if you're still in those days, due diligent days, then you can get out, you can get your earnest money, and then you can walk. But if you're not led, then that's when you actually have a problem too. You may end up losing the deal, you may end up losing your earnest money, you may end up losing it all.
Wow.
Another way that you can lose your earnest money, or that's what the deposit is. It's called your earnest money. Is financing. Your pre-approval is just that, guys. It is a pre-approval. So you want to be as honest as you possibly can when you're speaking to your lender, because once you find the house, you actually have 10 days to do your due diligence, but you have 5 days to start your actual loan process, because when you're pre-approved, you did not actually start the process. It's you having a conversation with your lender. It's you sending over some documents to verify that what you said is true, and then your lender saying that this is what we are going to believe that you qualify for. But we've seen situations where we've gone under contract, and once you've gone under contract, that's when your 10-day due diligence period starts, and that's when the 5 days that you have to start your loan happens. But we've actually seen situations where we can go under contract and the financing falls through because something wasn't told truthfully up front.
Wow.
So you want to be completely honest. There are situations where you can't get your earnest money back. Like Holly said, if you walk into a situation and you have your inspections done, and then it comes back like that there's a termite infestation, at that point, the consumer has every right to back out of that contract.
Okay.
And a good agent is going to make sure that because you're backing out for justified reasons, that you're going to back out and you're still going to get your earnest money back. But I think as buyers that you need to know it is not 100% guaranteed that money is going to come back to you.
Wow.
Another way that buyers are not familiar with actually losing a deal is just once you get under contract and you're on your way to closing, you can't go and buy the furniture to put in the house.
No.
You cannot go and buy the
refrigerator.
the refrigerator.
Oh,
You cannot go and buy the lawnmower to cut your yard. You have to wait because they do take into consideration
Yes.
debt to income ratio.
So look, here's the huge thing.
Wow.
Debt to income ratio is real. It exists. It is one of the main things that they use outside of your credit score to balance. Your credit score is what says, okay, we believe that you can handle it. Your debt to income ratio is what's going to tell us how much you can handle. Right? So once you get pre-approved and we start the process of actually getting the loan and making sure you qualify for the loan and making it to the closing table, that's an exciting time for everybody. We found the house. Now we want to decorate the house. Don't. Stop it. Wait.
Hold on.
Obviously, speaking from experience.
Yes.
Not personal, but
Right,
I've had,
watching
we've
the
had clients
Yes.
where, it's come down to the nitty-gritty and they've purchased a refrigerator which has thrown something off. And, luckily when you have amazing agents and amazing lenders, we can still make it happen. But that's when it comes down to, you may be supposed to close on September 30th, but because you made this purchase, now we have to go back and rework some of the numbers. Now your closing date is pushed back, and now you have to wait another week or so to close. Nobody wants to do that. So we always suggest any major purchase that you're going to make, shop around for it for sure, so you know exactly what you're going to want and need. You guys can literally walk away from the closing table and go make the purchase that day. Save for it. Do not make it before you close. It can hinder. Another huge thing, do not rent your U-Haul in advance because your closing date can change. I have had clients who have rented a U-Haul on the day that we were supposed to close, and then something happens, closing day gets pushed back, whether it's something on the buyer side or the seller side, and now you've rented a U-Haul that you may not be able to switch the day on, and you're just stuck with this U-Haul at your house. So please wait until you have a guaranteed closing date before you go out and rent that U-Haul. Okay?
So what I'm picking up, pulling from what the two of you saying, once you are approved for your home, do not spend any money
Not
because
out of your norm.
it can
Don't get
affect
excited.
you before you sit down and sign that contract.
Exactly. At that
Yes.
point, after your pre-approval, your financial pattern should pretty much stay the same until you
Okay.
close.
That makes
Because what they're
sense.
basing your pre-approval off of is pretty much what you've done within like the last 6 months to a year.
Yep.
Wow.
So you don't want that pattern to change, because if that pattern changes, that sends up a red flag to them, and then we may have to revisit the actual pre-approval. So as exciting as it may be, and as much as you want to go out, purchase the new rug or the new furniture, the new refrigerator, whatever the case may be, just really wait until you, reach that closing table and do it after that, please. Thank you.
Let us hand you your keys first.
Right.
There you go. It makes sense because understanding what you were saying, but I'm thinking about our viewers. Like, what do you mean? I'm already approved for the home, so why can I go out and buy the things that I need? So don't do anything.
No, because again, you have to realize you're pre-approved for the home. You're not approved until we make it to the closing table.
Okay.
So, your pre-approval is the thing that says, hey, this is how much home you can go out and shop for. That's when, your agent's going to get super excited for you. That's when we're going to go and have to have fun. But closing usually takes about 45 days out from the initial contract. And the reason it takes so long is because your lender needs to go through with a very fine-tooth comb and make sure that everything is the way that it needs to be on paper, so that you guys can actually fully be approved and qualified, and we can close at the closing table.
That's awesome. Okay. We'll be right back.
Patty cake, baker's fan. Bake me a cake as fast as you can. Bring in a patty, mark it with a P, and put it in the oven for Billy and me.
As long as I'm not looking back in fear, and I'm looking forward towards faith, I can see this miracle at 51%. Will I ever be sure that the business is going to work? No. You have to hear from God, and you have to put your faith at 51%.
Faith.
And I know it's gonna taste just right. So delicious to the very last bite.
I have stepped over into faith. Faith at 51%.
Welcome back. So we were talking about a lot of people that are buying, purchasing their homes. Tell me about the sellers and why is it so important for a seller to still have an agent?
Absolutely. You hear all the time for sale by owner, for sale by owner, for sale by owner. And the reason why is because in a person's mind, when they're trying to sell their home, if they're not an experienced agent that maybe just has retired and still knows what they're doing, but just someone who has a whole nother career and really doesn't know about this industry, feels like I can save money by selling my home myself. I do not have to pay for the agent's commission. And typically in a home buying process, the seller is the one who is paying the commission for sometimes the buyer as well. Every situation is different. However, that's not always the case. And the thing of it is if you don't have the resources that we as agents have, then how can you say that your home is worth this amount of money?
That's true.
Without having the data that we have to comp your property and get your property where you can actually do two different ways of putting it on the market, but one of them could be really attractive to buyers and end up being in a multiple offer situation, and what you wanted to get, but you was not wanting to pay the commission. If you had the right agent that was guiding you and put the house on the market for you, walked you through the things that you needed to do as a homeowner trying to sell your home, and followed our system, then you can actually put more money in your pocket and still pay my commission.
Yeah. I think one of the huge things, like Holly said, was definitely finances. So because we don't want to pay that commission, or we don't want to pay, the company that's representing us to advertise that, we feel like we can do it on our own. What we have to realize is you may be able to, just reach a local area. If a car is driving by and they see the sign, okay, they saw it. You may reach out to Zillow and feel like how much it is, or figure out how much it is to put it on there, Realtor, Truly, all these websites out there that are great. But if you get an experienced agent, then our network is global. So if somebody is moving down from New York or over from California or wherever the case may be, our network expands globally.
Even to Europe.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're international.
So imagine
So
getting that out there internationally, or nationally versus locally, there's going to be more attraction to your home if you go through an agent. We have more experience, as Holly stated, than a lot of these people who are sellers. And, there are some amazing sellers out here. Some of them know exactly what they're doing. But prime example, the seller that I'm working with now, amazing family. Their home was for sale by owner for quite some time and it just wasn't moving. Now that I've taken over, we have a lot of action coming to the house, and we definitely expect an offer to be coming through soon. So it's just extremely important to know your options. At least know your options. Figure out what is the difference if I were to sell it on my own or if I were to invest just a little bit into this. So when it comes down to pricing your home, a lot of times we'll feel as if because we've upgraded the backsplash or we've changed out the countertops, we've thrown in like hardwood floors versus carpet, and we've been in this house for so long that we're going to price it at a certain point, but that comes from emotion. So you need to be very cautious about your price point, which is where a great agent will come in.
So with emotion, let's talk about that. Because if you have lived in a house for many, many, many years and say raised your kids and now they're gone and now say you want to downsize or move totally somewhere else, when it comes to pricing as a seller, you have to take the emotional part out of business.
Right.
And a lot of times people cannot separate the two. And with the right agent, you can be led and guided by what the market is saying and not what your emotions are saying. And so in our industry, we are the ones that are just going to give you the facts, put it on the table, and let you know what the market is speaking and guide you through the process of, staging. What do you need to do as far as repairs and maintenance before you put it on the market? But sometimes you may want to invest in getting new floors and you don't need new floors. Sometimes you want to invest in, you think that you need to spend X, Y, and Z to be able to sell your property and you don't. Sometimes you can actually improve your home out of your neighborhood and never get that money back.
Wow.
And that's something that I was getting ready to touch on when I lost my train. So be careful not to out-update your neighborhood. And we see this a lot of times where people will just outdate their home. But then when we pull comps in the neighborhood, there's nothing comparable. So you spent all this money on upgrades and the home looks lovely, but we can't price it or sell it at that because there's nothing else around you selling at this amazing price point. So now you have an option of either holding on to this home for a long time and letting it sell in the market, which 9 times out of 10 is taking money out of your pocket, or you just decide to lower the price and get less than you naturally expected, which may put you in a situation where you spent more on your upgrades and you're actually going to get back at the closing table. So it's extremely important to know what's going on in the area around you before you start some of these renovations, which is where an agent will come into place if you did not know where to look and how to look.
So long story short, when it comes to sellers, maybe you don't know every key ingredient to get the most net in your pocket. And you can actually think that you are saving money by not hiring an agent to help you with this process and end up spending more than the commission that I would charge. So those are things, because that's not cheap. All of those buys and upgrades and remodels and commission and everything, that is not just, small penny change on the table. So, when you're really trying to save the money, make sure that you're really saving the money and not wasting more money and time, because like Robert said, the more and more that you're trying to do it on your own, the more mortgage you're paying, the more taxes you're paying, the more insurance you're paying.
And think about it. If you're selling a home, it's because you're getting ready to go into a new one. So you probably want to get that home off of your hands as quick as you can. A lot of times we try to set it to where the closing and of both homes, the new and the old, happen on the same day, but it doesn't always happen that way. So what happens if you've overpriced your home or you're trying to sell it by yourself, you're walking into a new home and now you have 2 mortgages. Right? Because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you continue to pay mortgage on the old home until somebody else picks it up. Unless it's paid off, which 9 times out of 10 it probably is not. So who wants to have a situation where they have 2 mortgages? It becomes a headache. And then like Holly said, depending on how long it sits on the market, you've paid so much in that first mortgage that you could have paid us the commission and we could have had your home sold in about 30 to 45 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. amazing. And you're right. You'll see a lot of for sale by owner.
Yes. And some of them, they don't really realize that, we have the buyers. We have the buyers that
Oh my
are
goodness.
qualified.
Talk about that.
So, you can sell your home and put, like he said, the marketing is everything, put the sign in the yard. You can call Zillow and get your listing on Zillow without getting an agent.
Mhm.
But the cost of that, and then also when you put it on Zillow, we just missed the Zillow call. We're the agents that are getting the buyers from your resource, from Zillow. So we're still knocking on your door with the qualified buyer.
Wow.
So it's in your best interest to at least pay for the commission of someone bringing you a qualified buyer instead of just having your house for sale and you just are showing your house to agents instead of buyers.
Not only that, just think about, like, Holly and I are not the only two on our team or with EXP. EXP, again, is an international company. So we talk to agents across the country. Agents will reach out to us if they have clients that are moving down this way. So just imagine being able to get that out in that way. Like, how many people we are able to reach in a small time frame.
Yeah.
But even outside of that, so our team consists of, I think we have 6 or 7 agents at this point, plus our broker. So we have a board. Before anything hits the market that we're going to list, it goes on the board. So a lot of times you'll notice where your home won't even have to hit the market because somebody in our office has a buyer in your house.
I got somebody.
And your house that's about to hit the market that hit our board, they go and look up and they're like, hey, Robert, hey, Holly, tell me about this. And then we find out that they have a client that's perfect for this house. So your house never has to hit the market.
Wow.
And because you're guided in pricing it right, now it's attracting buyers. So when Robert brings a buyer, then somebody else brought a buyer, and somebody else brought a buyer, and somebody else brought a buyer, and now you have multiple offers sitting on your table, and it's
Instead of sitting.
Exactly.
And now you have the opportunity to get more on the home than you would have on your own, or even that possibly, you would have with us, because we're going to set your home priced at a point that we know is going to be fair to you, but also attractive to buyers specifically for that reason. When you get into multiple bidding offers, that's when we have the beautiful privilege of calling and saying, hey guys, this house is hot. So we're going to reach out to all the selling agents and say, hey, by this time on this day, we need your best and final offer. And that's all we're going to accept. And we're only going to take the best and best offer for our clients.
Wow. Wow. That's just so amazing. I'm hoping that this is helping our viewers, which I'm sure, because I'm just blown away about a lot of things that I have.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think a lot of people don't know because, like we said, there's a pretty side to it. And that's usually all that people know. I got pre-approved. I found my house that's closed. It's not that simple. You have to go through inspections. You never know what might pop up on an inspections. And then at least what we call repair addendums. Now we're asking the sellers to fix certain things that, according to the inspector, don't meet code. You can get to a situation right then and there where the sellers are like, well, we don't want to fix this. Now we have to decide, are we going to take this or are we going to back out? Wow. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's a lot of fun. And a lot of times we try to cover up things so our clients don't see them on the back end. So
not to stress them.
Right, not to stress them out. That's what we're here for. But if you don't have an agent, you can't be stressed out through the process. So I just say reach out to an agent, whether it's one of us or somebody with another company. You just want to find that person that you can relate to. I always tell my clients, if we shop and you don't feel like you're shopping with family, then we are not the right pair. That's my mindset. I don't look at this like a business venture. All of my clients remain close friends of mine even after they close.
Absolutely.
So I think that's extremely important. You definitely want to make sure that you and your agent have a connection, and that's just how I think my business is continuing to grow.
Absolutely, because this journey total could take least 40 to 45 days.
Okay.
But it can be for years.
Right.
Depending on where you are when you first start and what your credit looks like.
Wow. This is amazing. This is amazing. Since we're on the sellers, tell me about, you hear a lot of sellers, that rent. They want to rent. If they're in a certain community, they just can't open up and rent, correct?
So The first thing I would suggest is if you're in an HOA, you want to read your HOA guidelines and your bylaws. A lot of times you either are unallowed to rent homes in that neighborhood or only a certain amount of homes can be rented in that neighborhood. So you're going to want to read your HOA and reach out to the board to figure that out first. Secondly, renting is, again, it's a great source of income, but you have to realize and put yourself in the mindset of when we had apartments, you are now the landlord. So you are now over everything that happens to that home, whether the refrigerator breaks, the dishwasher, the stove, the oven, you are responsible for that. So if you're going to rent, I say sit down and figure out whether you want to actually take that responsibility. Again, we're with an amazing company, and we actually have a certain department that deals with rental incomes and rental properties. So you have that option as well. You can look for a company that will handle that for you.
That's awesome.
But just sit down and do your education on it and figure out what's going to work best.
And also, speaking of budgeting, because yes, you will have, those maintenance issues for now 2 homes, yours and your rental, but also taxes. And a lot of times people don't understand that in South Carolina, when you have an investment property, it's 6% instead of your 4%.
Wow.
And that, the 2%, is almost looking double.
It's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. Once they put in the millage rates and everything, which, I mean, that's their calculations that they do.
Call your lender.
Okay.
But, it's a pretty penny that you definitely need to budget for.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. This is some good stuff today. I'm telling you, I am so full from it. I'm just excited because I'm in the market. So this is some phenomenal information. Now, you also hear a lot of people talk about, is it the quick buy or the fast buy?
A short sale. You talking about a short sale?
Yeah, tell us about
Short
that.
sales can be long.
Oh,
They're not short.
oh,
They're not
really?
always short. No.
They're really not.
Really?
They're longer than an average sale. Yes.
Wow.
So the thing with most short sales is short sales are run by bank, and bank-owned properties just tend to be a little bit more tedious as far as what they're looking for and the requirements. So although it says short sale, a short sale can take more than 45 days, which is your typical closing period. So you just want to be very careful when you're walking into a short sale. It's usually something that's advertised on the home when you're looking at it, so just make sure you pay attention and look for that. If you don't see it, make sure that you have your agent look, because again, that can be a very lengthy process.
Wow.
So just say if you're in a lease,
Mm-hmm.
you have a deadline that's coming up, short sale is probably not something that you want to look for, even though you see it saying short sale.
Short is not always short.
No.
All that glitters isn't always gold.
That's it.
That's it.
That is so true, so
Yes.
true. Tell me about foreclosure homes. Are you all involved with the foreclosures?
Yes, we are. We are involved with all homes, even estate homes. Anytime that the bank is the third party and we need signatures from them, same thing. It's going to be a little bit longer process because if they drag their feet, they can get more money.
Wow.
So just know that, when it comes to dealing with those properties, it's not bad and it's not a no-go.
Right.
But just be prepared that the journey is going to look like a little bit different than your typical one.
So again, I think it just depends on your timeline for when you want to move. So
Absolutely.
if for foreclosures, short sales, I usually say as long as you have like 6 months, maybe a year, then that might be something that you want to look into and start preparing for. But if you're in a situation where your lease is coming up and you've decided like enough is enough and I'm ready to buy, you probably want to find a resale, even a new build. New builds are amazing. You're the first one in them. You get to sit there and you get to pick everything from the ground up. It is the most amazing feeling to know that all the final touches belong to you. But if you do not have 5 to 6 months to wait, a new build is probably not going to be the best option for you. There are market builds, which is a new build that the agent for the home that's the builders has put together herself, and now that's ready for sale. But even that, if the market build is not ready, you still have to wait for that to be built. So new builds may not be the best angle to go depending on your time frame.
Okay. This is awesome. Listen, today's been a phenomenal show. I cannot thank the two of you so much for coming out and really sitting down with me today and being able to tell our viewers. Tell us the name of your agent again, how the two of you can be reached, and if y'all looking for an agent, they're right here.
Definitely, definitely. So we actually can help no matter where you are. If you are not in South Carolina, great. Give us a call. My name is Holly Cook. I'm with EXP Realty, and my number is 818-726-7280. And I am with EXP Realty. So you can look us up on our website as well, which is hollycook.exprealty.com.
And I am Robert Epps III. Again, I can be reached at 803-415-9330. My website is robertepps.exprealty.com. Also, if you're an agent that has heard of EXP and you're interested, please reach out to Holly or myself and we can have more conversations about how we can bring you over to this amazing agency as well.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's another show.
That is another show. And we will be back. But just so you know, agents, if you're not thriving, call us.
Call us.
I love it. We'll be right back.
The Bev For Real Talk Show would like to thank the following sponsors. If you would like to become a sponsor or have your commercial aired during the show, please email bevforrealshow@gmail.com or call 929-286-3513.
Welcome back. So today we had a phenomenal show. Today we got to learn about buying and selling homes. This is such a great show, and I really want to thank you both again. Again, they're EXP Realty. I'm forever trying to add an extra letter. And just reach out to them. Very, very knowledgeable. The two of you are very knowledgeable, and we're excited to have you.
Thank you.
And as I always say, as I close out on the Bev For Real, be true to yourself by keeping it real, for real, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
The Bev For Real Show is produced by Vice Productions.
Let's keep it real.